Welcome to I See You, a podcast where we know that human connection restores mental health and resilience. I'm your host, Julie De Jesus, and I see you. Let's be friends. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of I See You, a podcast where we talk about how human connection helps restore mental health and resilience. And I'm very excited today because I actually have an old therapist of mine on the podcast today, Allie Springer. Welcome.
Thank you.
To the podcast.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. Allie and I have since been friends, and I specifically wanted you to come on the podcast to speak a little bit to the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk shooting here in Utah. Specifically because when I found out about that, I had gone online, and actually one of the first places I found about it was because I had seen a video that you had posted, which was a pretty emotional video. And will you speak a little bit to, well, actually, sorry, let's pause. My bad. First, tell me a little bit about yourself before we jump straight into that. Is there someone in your life that you know is struggling and you honestly don't know what to do? That you want to help somehow? Well, here at ICU Living, we're trying to make seeing people easier than ever, which is why the ICU collection is back. And now we offer completely free shipping and my personal favorite, personalized notes. If you know someone that's struggling or someone that just simply needs to be reminded that they're human and other people know they're alive, go to iculiving.com/collection to pick out the perfect gift for them. Okay. What's your life like? You got family, kids? What do you do?
Yeah. I'm an LMFT, so licensed marriage and family therapist, and I own Pine View Therapy. We have a couple clinics, both in Spanish Fork and Sandy, where other therapists work with me. I've just recently got remarried after being a single mom for 8 years. And so that was fun. That was in May. And so I have 4 of my own kids. They're all adults now. My youngest just turned 18, which is crazy. Wow. And he also has 4 kids. So it's a lot. And it's amazing. Something I never thought that I'd be doing at this stage of life, but it's great.
So you guys have 8 together?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fun.
Yeah, but most of them are adults. So it's a different dynamic. It's just when you have like 5 in college, it's a little bit of an expense and an ordeal.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah, but it's great.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So you were seeing clients on the day that Charlie Kirk was shot, and you posted a fairly emotional video on social media that was just really raw and real. Can you speak to me a little bit about that day for you?
Yeah, that was very unlike me to post something that raw and real. I'd been seeing clients all morning into the afternoon, and then had a short break where I go get food. And during that, I got these texts from my daughter who goes to UVU. And that's how I first learned about it. When she was texting about this shooting, I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I don't look at my phone or get updates on things throughout the day when I'm just in therapy mode. And so once I figured out what she was talking about, because I'd heard that Charlie Kirk was going to be there, and once she said he was shot, they took him to the hospital, he's probably going to pass away. And then my mind started going. I texted a couple other people, have you heard about this? And they said, yeah. And actually then we just heard that he had passed away. So I went back to the office, and just a million feelings going through me. There was another therapist that was on her break also, and she saw me just starting to fall apart crying, and she's like, hey, come in here, let's just chat for a minute. And that was great. I needed that in that moment because I'd been focused on everyone else's mental health all morning as I'm being a therapist. And in that moment, I thought, I don't think I can go back to being a therapist the rest of the day. Like, this is hitting too hard within me. And really, it's tragic on so many levels Like at that point, I wouldn't even let myself go online. I didn't want to read a story about it. I didn't want to see a video. I didn't want to see any comment of what anyone said about it. And I knew if I went on Instagram or Facebook or anything that I would see all these other people's opinions. I thought I can't handle what this is going to do to people, because of course everyone's going to have strong emotions about this. And I just was so worried about the division. Because as a marriage and family therapist, over time, I do still see some individuals, but I really specialize in working with couples and with families, like full family dynamic, especially when they're parents with adult children and there's been estrangement of any kind. Then that's kind of where I've chosen to specialize, because I've seen this change over the years where there's just a lot more division and people are struggling to stay connected with someone that doesn't think or believe the way that they do.
Amen. Yeah.
And as I've seen that, I'm so passionate about people trying to stay in connection with others, that I've chosen to work with couples, a lot of which have different religious views or have different political views. And that's why they choose to come in, because they're thinking we have to get divorced. And sometimes they do, but I want to help them work through some of that before. So going back to the day of the Charlie Kirk shooting, all these feelings and emotions were hitting me of, oh no, another event that is going to divide people, where people are going to choose a side, because I know how some people really didn't like things that Charlie Kirk said, and other people really admire him. And then it becomes, oh, okay, so it's a conservative thing or a liberal thing. And I just was so scared about what it was going to do just to people's relationships in that moment. So after I spoke with the other therapist, I canceled the rest of my clients, and I went out to my car and still had not looked online at one thing, but it was just totally raw emotion. And I just made a video, nothing like I've ever done before, and put it on a couple different social media platforms, just talking about this exact thing. Like, as you have to get on and see the news, because I knew I'd have to at some point go read about it and see some videos. And I said, as you do that, please try to see the humanity in it and try to come from a place of compassion first, rather than, demonizing people or it happened because of this or whatever. Just someone lost their life today. It's tragic. Let's just start from a place of, what a tragedy this is.
Yeah, I found it really interesting that there was even conversation about whether people agreed with him or not. To me, that was really interesting, that's what I read about the most. I actually didn't know who he was before that. I wasn't familiar with him, but I quickly learned, there were a lot of people that had really strong feelings about him. And I even found myself listening to him just like, this is now on my brain, and I'd listen to some things. And it was interesting to me that I even stopped myself and I was like, it's fine for me to listen to him to get to know who he was. But really, this event doesn't have anything to do with whether I'm going to agree with him or not. Like, this is just horrific and sad that this happened.
Absolutely.
And that's I think that is just a good point of pause for all of us, because I found myself doing that of, do I agree with what he thinks? Like, and I almost stopped myself and was like, is that like a gauge of how sad this is?
Right.
Like, whether if I really agree with him, then I'm like, oh, this is way sad. And if I don't, I'm like, well, like, what? Like, that's not
exactly. Where if you don't agree with something someone says, it's okay for them to be assassinated for speaking their opinion. At a college where we send our children to actually become critical thinkers,
100%.
I want my children to learn all different viewpoints when they go to college.
Yes.
So it was just tragic on so many levels. And that's what concerned me. And I knew that the rhetoric would turn to, well, he's said this and this and this that I don't agree with, or the other side saying, a lot of people that really are fans of him are strong Christians and they believe he had strong morals, and that they would feel like that was under attack, that their morality was under attack. And it just hit me so hard that day. And then I had a vulnerability headache for the next the next couple of days, I thought, did I really post that online? Didn't even watch the video before I posted it.
I don't even remember what it said. I just remember you were crying and I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? But I thought it was a beautiful thing because I feel like it was just a reality check of like, these things really hurt people. I think a lot of people see stuff like this online or when they're far away from it, and they're really often very quick to, once again, like jump to a side and let's like chew the fat and let's talk about this and let's talk it to death. And yet I know people that were there physically.
Yes.
None of them are doing that. Like none of them are sitting around and chit-chatting about this, like almost like it's entertainment. They're talking about how, at UVU, like we're all just like a little bit more, almost like more reverent and calm with each other and just kind and checking in on each other. Like there's just kind of a, I don't know if reverence is the word. It's not peace, but like there's just this like respect around of just like sacred just feelings of just something really sad happened here and we were all together and are you okay? And how's this person? And
absolutely,
like it's brought unity there. And isn't that so interesting that it's like it seems like the further you get from a situation, the more it becomes like less human and more just like an interesting thing to talk about almost.
Yep.
And
you just learn about it on your different news site that has its own bias.
Yeah. Or like the 6-second bite on TikTok. I was just talking to someone about an issue, a good friend of mine, and she was saying some feelings she had, and I was like, that's interesting. I was like, where was your source for that? Not even trying to challenge it. And she's like, well, TikTok and Instagram. I was like, And I thought it was interesting, and I've done the same.
Oh, we all have.
So that's nothing against her, but I remember talking to my own therapist who, about this a little while later. And I was just like, I'm having confused feelings about all this like cultural weirdness around the shooting. And we just talked about this idea of, it almost feels like gone are the days when we decide things for ourselves, when we create our own opinions. But there seems to be a big jump to let me go online and figure out how other people feel about this and how I should feel about this.
Yep.
Is there anything you'd say to speak to that?
What my side is thinking, what my group is thinking.
Yeah.
So that I can understand how to feel
and
about
like use the vocabulary. Yeah. And and even just this whole idea of like which I've never seen the video of him being shot, but the fact that video was passed around everywhere. My therapist we were just talking about this idea of like, we're not used to seeing that kind of trauma all the time, just like on our phone. Like it's not something that we're mentally equipped to handle we weren't there. That's not for us to see and to like re-experience over and over again.
No.
But I
see the trauma on everyone's face as they run, even ones that blurred out, exactly what happened when the shooting occurred. You still see the trauma on the faces around. We're not meant to see all of this, to hear about shootings in schools, shootings in a church, right up, and then a shooting at a university, all of this, and to be able to see eyewitness videos, it just is too much for our brains.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm putting you on the spot here, but when you say it's too much for our brains, where can that lead? Like, what's the problem with that?
Well, I think a lot of that leads to more of the group think, because we feel so overwhelmed with that we're turning to others of, how should I feel about this? This is too much.
So much.
For my
I can't
brain
process
and my
it
own
alone.
System to process.
Makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I really do think that to some extent that creates more of the divide. Of course, there's so many things at play that are creating more of a divide in our society right now. But I think that's a big part of it, that we're used to now being able to go online and see what all of the people in our news feed that we choose to follow, whether they're news people or not, whether they're just our friends or a family.
Yeah. Everyone has a voice
This
online.
is how they feel about it. Okay, then I can feel a little bit better, because it does relieve some anxiety when we can turn to others and say, how should I feel about this? Tell me how to feel about this. And then we can go, okay, well, at least I know what to think. At least I know those around me are thinking something similar, so I can settle into this. But then that creates a divide against someone else who has a different feed, and they have different people who are feeding them something, and they've created their own groupthink.
Yeah. So what do you think is the difference between healthy human connection and groupthink? Because it's like,
question.
Because I know they're different. I don't know how to put my finger on it exactly, but human connection is so vitally important. You talked about talking to that therapist when you were really struggling and just needing that your therapist friend, not your therapist, but needing someone else to kind of talk and process with. And that's true too. But this groupthink, is it and I don't even have a specific answer, but do you think it's like the online, the sound bites, like the so many voices at once, and that, not being able to really like talk and take the time to process with someone that that you trust? And
I think that's a huge part of it. Being able to slow down and actually think through things. I mean, I'm a big advocate of becoming a critical thinker, to be able to see all angles, to just know and understand that we have biases. Like one of my greatest classes that I took years ago in grad school was we had to write this whole paper about all the prejudices we had against other people. And you find out you have to write a paper on that, and you're like, no, I don't have prejudice against other people. I'm very accepting, right? And then as you dive into it and you start to realize, oh, shoot, there's all these things that come into play because of my life experience. And that class was so eye-opening and really changed my thinking in so many ways, because now I can go into things knowing full well I'm speaking from my own experience. The lens I'm speaking from is because of everything I've experienced, and I'm never going to see the world like the person I'm speaking to, because they have their own experiences. And the goal isn't to see the world the exact same. It's to be able to stay in connection with people when we don't see the world the same way. Just to be able to connect, to share ideas, and to not feel like we need to disconnect if they see things differently. So going back to what you were saying about groupthink and connection, and like the first, it's kind of silly, but the first thing that came to my mind is I was actually in Brazil when the new Taylor Swift album came out. I'm a total Swiftie, have been since like literally day one.
I have her first CD.
Oh yeah.
It's so good.
I remember finding her on going online, and there was this Billboard Top 100, and it was the Tim McGraw song. And I was like,
such a good one.
I don't know who this 16-year-old girl is. So anyway, I consider myself a very much OG Swiftie. But the new album came out, and I stayed up to listen to it because it was the middle of the night over there. And the next morning, I told my daughter that was there, I stayed up last night and I listened to the whole album, and I have my thoughts about some different songs that I liked and stuff. And she had already gone online to TikTok and stuff and said, oh, everybody's saying that it's like a terrible album, that she doesn't know how to write anymore. And I mean, totally fine for them to have their opinion about it, right? But what I found interesting about it is that she had her opinion already on the album because of what she had been hearing from other people. Right?
Had she listened to it?
Yeah. And now she's listened, and I have no idea what she thinks about it now.
Yeah.
It was just the moment where, this is what to me is different, is I sat there and thought, I don't really care what anyone else thinks about the album. That doesn't matter to me. I'm not going on TikTok to find out what other people think about her poetry on this album. So
I can know how I should feel about it.
To know how I should feel. I actually get to have my own opinions about the album, regardless of what everyone else online is. So to me, there was this difference of, I don't care about the group. To me, that's groupthink.
Yes.
But then, later on now, my husband, who has never been a Swiftie whatsoever, loves the song The Fate of Ophelia, and he listens to it on his own while he's at the gym, which cracks me up. So it's he just was like, that's so funny. I like a Taylor Swift song. To me, that's connection, where I've just been able to kind of play some songs, and he'll be like, oh, what do you think about that song? He actually asked me today, who's The Fate of Ophelia about? What's the story behind that? I'm like, I don't know. Let's research it. Let's look it up. That's connection, where it's he's never going to be a Swiftie. It's not his kind of music. But he could find some connection in it and go, oh, when you play that one, I like to kind of sing along. It's fun.
Well, and if everybody has their own beliefs, so if we believe that we came from the same place, wherever that was, or that we're made of somewhat of the same material, just being the same species, there should be a human level we can all connect on of just, we all are looking to find belonging and acceptance and love. And what if that has nothing to do with agreeing?
Exactly.
What if that's just like a biological thing that we need, and agreeing is just kind of not even necessary? It's just, I think I keep going back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I keep seeing my AP psychology class, right? At the bottom where you have like food, shelter, security. And I think sometimes I find we just have our priorities mixed up, where I think it's probably very important to, decide what you think about certain things. And we all have to make judgments for the way we want to live our life. However, that priority is, to me, seems so far from the very basics of people should feel loved and secure and be within belonging. We can get to that, but we've made that like number one somehow, of that that's like the most important thing we need to figure out in a relationship. And I just don't think that's the case.
No. And it gets complicated. I realize that. I can hear in my mind what people would say as they heard us talk about this.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more complicated than that.
Right.
If anything, critical thinking helps us understand nuance better. Everything is nuanced. There's so much nuance in the world. Where we say things aren't black and white, we have to live in the gray. Well, I think the gray actually is like a rainbow of colors, because that's where like ideas and creativity are. Like, let's come together and let's discuss these different things.
Yeah, great. Right? It's interesting. Episode 5 on ICU was all about getting out of black and white thinking and thinking in gray. And when I went to write the book ICU, just what you said, there was one day where I was like, I've just never liked thinking in gray, because I feel like there's like some weird negativity to it, to the culture I grew up is like thinking in gray. It's like you're unsure or and I'm like, no, because to me it's like expansive, and I had that thought. I was like, it's thinking in color, like it's seeing things for other. It's like the movie The Giver, when all of a sudden he like feels pain, right? And not to give away too much from that's a very old book and movie though. So if you don't know by now,
only read the book, but fantastic,
right?
Book.
Fantastic book, and he feels pain, and he sees that there's perspectives outside of his life, and all of a sudden things have color. And to me, that's the life I want to live. Like, I don't want to go back to the black and white where I was right about everything, man. I knew everything. I feel like when you live in color, you're an experienced therapist. You've heard a lot of different experiences, but don't you feel like the more you know, you realize how much there is that you don't know?
Absolutely.
Like, I feel like that is wisdom. The thing that has
brought me the most joy in life is settling into uncertainty. Going, I don't know. I don't have any control of the outcome. But my job is to focus internally, manage my own emotions, show love towards others, try to be doing good in the world. But just uncertainty has been it's been the hardest thing for me to embrace, and the absolute most beautiful thing for me to embrace. As I went to get married again, people would say, aren't you so worried about that? Like your first marriage ended in divorce.
Same.
And of course. But they're like, so what if you're
like, it's never crossed my mind.
Yeah. They're like, what if you bump up against all these big issues? I'm like, oh, we will have some issues. First of all, that's marriage. But also I'm like, I just know I'll be okay now. Whereas before, I felt like I could only take a step if I had certainty about that step, everything's going to work out okay. I'm like, I have no idea what tomorrow is going to bring. And it's really beautiful to live in that place. But going back to where I was saying, I can hear what people would say about this. They'd say, well, yeah, but I have to have Thanksgiving dinner with my family, and I feel like my dad is racist and my mom is homophobic, or, whatever the different things are going to say. Or families coming together for the holidays where maybe one has stepped away from a religion that's very important to the family, and how difficult that is. So there's so much nuance in here. It's not just, sit down and be fine and have a kumbaya.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm saying. But I do think that there's ways we can stay in connection. And it starts with a lot of curiosity. Just instead of feeling so threatened by what the other person says, when we're able to sit in a place of curiosity, knowing that we can have our chance to share what our viewpoint is, but that we're going to be able to show the most love by saying, I don't know that I understand it the way you see it. Can you tell me more about that? Not because we're expecting them to change our mind. We all need to have our own convictions. Like, we all have things we feel very strongly about. But the more that we can understand where someone else is coming from, we can stay in connection with them. An example would be, I could come up with a lot of examples from clients, but say there's a couple that's in therapy and one of them is more conservative about the gun laws and one is more liberal about gun laws. That just as an example. So when I can ask the one who is more conservative about it, you know, say it's a guy and he's always been a gun owner and he's enjoyed hunting, and he says, I'm worried about someone coming in and taking away my guns. That's my way to protect my family. And I can go, oh, yeah, of course.
Seems
that's
like a
so
valid
important
concern
to you, right?
Seems really valid.
Like, this is so, it's scary to me that someone could hurt my family and I just want to protect them. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then you talk to, say it's the wife who's more liberal, who's like, I just don't like that we have the guns around. You know, I feel like maybe the guns could hurt my child. What if my child dealt with mental illness and they were able to get a hold of the gun? Or I don't like, you know, it's scary to send my kids to school and they might get shot there. And I'm like, yeah, that's scary. Oh, so it sounds to me like you both love your family so much and you're both so scared at times because you want to protect them. Is that true? And they'd be like, yeah, okay, we can start there. Like, that's connection, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that we agree on everything, because we're never going to agree on everything. But it can be like, wow, you really love your family and want to protect them.
Yeah.
Like, that's great. You guys are fantastic parents.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think if we could do that more in society, man, would things be helpful and change?
Yes, it would change society absolutely
Quite a bit, right?
as a whole. Which is why the day of the Charlie Kirk shooting, it felt, I mean, it punctured a hole in our society because it was like,
It was so close to home for us.
so close. I mean, that's where I got my master's degree. And then I'd gone there back when it was UVSC, which shows my age.
My older sister too, UVSC.
To get some of my undergraduate degree. So I know the university so well. I know the whole layout of it. I've walked everywhere. I've been, where the shooting occurred so many times. And so it felt like this puncture of like, not in my community. That can't happen in my community. So there was that aspect. But then on a bigger, broader scale, there was society in general where I thought, no, not another thing that is going to just cause division as people try to claim that their side is right.
Yeah. And it's going to become, because the sad truth is people are shot in other places too that don't impact our community as much, because the further away it is from us, it just doesn't feel as personal. But I think there is something to location of when it's really close to you, all of a sudden it's like, that could happen to me.
Of course.
And it becomes very real. Whereas I hear about it in a different country. Not that it's not sad and that we don't feel this human sadness for someone, but I do think there's just, you just don't know what you don't know. And when it happens really close, all of a sudden you're like, oh, this could be real. This is a different level of reality. And I think it's been really beautiful to see people that have chosen to become softer instead of harder because of it.
Yes.
I think that's always the goal. I know you and I have talked about my sister Amy before she passed away. That was something she always really tried to cling to as she was going through her cancer treatments, and leaving little kids is trying to let this make her softer, not harder towards others and their challenges. And I saw some really beautiful things come of it. And that I have found for myself personally, and I think you'd agree, like that kind of life is where I found the most peace.
Yes, absolutely.
And it especially becomes important. It's a lot easier to be soft with people like you who, like, we have a pretty easy time talking. We may not agree on everything, but like, I feel like I feel it's very easy to speak my mind and know that I'll be loved and accepted. It like you said, it is much more complicated. Not everybody is soft towards you in return. And I think that's that place where there's a way to love people and to be smart, to have boundaries.
Yep. Boundaries are very important.
They are.
Yeah.
Do you have any mantras or anything that you tell yourself? And I'm putting you on the spot again, but things that kind of ground you when things are difficult, whether that's as a therapist or just in home life. Like, do you have any sayings or routines?
I don't know about saying so much, but I really try to come from a place of curiosity, which helps a lot. When you have 4 adult children who have taken completely different life paths and have been just a crash course in differentiation for me, it's been lovely. And it really has. Like, I'm so grateful for the kids I have because they have helped me develop this skill. So coming from a place of curiosity helps me so much to go, I have no idea what is going on right now with this other person who is falling apart or who is blaming me for whatever it is, or has this very strong viewpoint about this other thing. I wonder where that's coming from. I wonder what they're experiencing and whether they really have a strong viewpoint about this, or it might be a surface level thing and there's a lot going on underneath the surface.
Yeah.
So for me, learning to be curious in life about other people has been life-changing.
Yeah. And on that note, I think that's a great way to close up the podcast. Thank you for coming on.
You're
for
so
talking
welcome.
about your experience.
I love this.
Yeah, I love this too. Listeners, thanks again for listening to ICU, and we will see you next time. Hey listeners, I'm Julie DeJesus, founder of ICU Living. No matter what we do here, we are all things ICU. That's why I've rebranded my keynote speaking and consulting as ICU Leadership, a branch of ICU Living. I help leaders turn human connection into their most powerful strategy for keeping great people and bringing out their best. My secret weapon? What it's always been, being real. Remember, happiness isn't your business. Connection is. Visit ICUleadership.com to find out more.